Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Elizabeth Curtis on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, where I don't even want to ask what the weather's like, but she's a bodybuilder on here to share her health and fitness journey and discuss all things health and fitness. And as we can tell just by looking at her, she's a couple of weeks out of a show. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I do got to begin, even though I hate to ask it. What is the weather like in Phoenix, Arizona right now?
Super hot, super hot. About 118 this week is supposed to be, but it did rain a couple days ago, so that kind of kept it a little bit less awful.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, I ask this to every Arizona guest, and I've asked you this before, but I do have to ask it again. Like, how do you guys function during that? Because it's 90 degrees here right now, and it's, I don't even want to go outside, and I have to wait for night time to really go on like my cardio walks. How do you cope with all of that, especially when it's like 115 degrees? Because I can't imagine that you'd really be doing anything outside of the house.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We just don't go outside. If we have to go outside, we cool down the car just like you warm up your car. We cool it down. Usually takes about 10 minutes, and then we can get out there, and it's not too hot by the time we sit in the vehicle.
I mean, there are some days where you could probably literally just put your eggs out in the middle of the sidewalk, and I mean, they'd be good in about, 5-10 minutes. Yeah.
I've had competitor friends of mine joke about it, but it's a real thing that meal prep, you don't need a microwave here. You just put it on your dash for about 10 minutes, and then it's done.
I mean, doing cardio out in that sun, I mean, that's probably got to be the best though, because you probably like sweat, off 10 pounds of body weight, every single time you go out there. So I mean, that's really the only positive that I can get. But before we depress everyone with just our weather stories, because I'm sure that there's people out there being like, oh, I just feel so bad for him. Why don't you give us your backstory and what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you becoming a bodybuilder?
Oh, so it kind of goes back all the way. If I had to talk about where it first started to like when I was really young, um, it's kind of I compare it to like when people say monkey see, monkey do. It's not what you say to do. We learn things by observing others, and unfortunately, my mother passed away when I was 10, and for some reason, she passed away from cancer. For some reason, inherently, I always knew that her diet had something to do with it because she was an overweight woman. She had a lot of depression. She had a lot of anxiety. She was OCD. So I got to see her suffer, but I also got to see some of the decisions and life choices that she made while the short time that she was here. So I tried to like find my way through life because everybody kept telling me, you're going to end up just like her. You better get screened. You have all these predisposition things that'll happen to you. And I just basically said, no, not if I have anything to do about it. So I went to um, did a vocational college and I got my NSCA certification. That didn't really follow through because becoming a personal trainer in the very beginning is incredibly difficult to do unless you're working for a box gym and then you don't make much money. I was working restaurant at the time, so I wasn't willing to give up my salary and everything that I was making in tips. But I did realize I needed change. So I'm originally from Bakersfield, California. It was at that point I decided to pursue a degree in kinesiology. So I moved to San Diego for that. I did attend a community college for a little bit. And what really ended up happening is that I had to increase my work hours. And so I had some sciatic pain that developed because misalignment of my back and things. Honestly, what I know now is that my muscles were not strong enough to support me for that long of a work day. So what I did is I went to some chiropractic care because the pain was bad. It was like spasming at nighttime and all kinds of things. I went to chiropractic care, but I also joined a gym. And of course, they give you those free little personal training sessions in the beginning. And I ended up I told him, I said, I need somebody who can work with injury. I want to get back into it, but I cannot be hurt more. They paired me with a great guy. He ended up being my trainer for about 5 years. And I just fell in love with lifting. Of course, they say breakups create the best bodies. So there was a small breakup there in San Diego that motivated me because I was only going once or twice a week. Never cardio, though. Let's just be clear about that. I was all cardio for a very long time. But when I decided, I was like, you know what? What's stopping you from going every day? An extra hour? Like, just get up. And so I did. And the more I became serious about that, the more I started to realize my physique was not really exhibiting what I was doing in the gym. And I got frustrated. So I was just about ready to start like focusing on meal prep. I'd already eat healthy, right? But I didn't eat enough. I know that. I always knew I knew that, but I didn't know how to go about it. my life changed. I ended up moving to Phoenix, Arizona from San Diego in 2018 or I'm sorry, 2017, and decided I wanted to do my first bodybuilding show because I figured, well, you're definitely not going to let yourself sit on stage looking like crap. So you bet that'll force you to diet. And then let's just see what's underneath all of this stuff. Let's find somebody to help. Um, as it is normally, it is difficult to find a good coach in the beginning. I think the person who helped me out in the beginning was just starting. It's much better now, but at the time, it was the wrong recipe for my body. And I ended up getting very uncomfortable, very bloated. And thankfully, during that time, I met my husband. So at the time, it's my boyfriend. And I just looked at him one day and I said, I'm not doing this show. I feel like crap. Fix it. And he's like, I don't want to stop. I said, fix it. I don't care whose toes you step on. You're an IFBB pro. You know how to do this. Fix it. I don't want to feel like this. This is not why I wanted to do a show. This is not what I thought would happen. So he took over my coaching and he's been my coach ever since.
That is awesome. And yeah, and I'm glad that you started off not just being a cardio bunny, because that's what we hear about 99% of the time with these podcasts, especially with women. Because I mean, going into the number one stereotype that I love to bust, there still is that fear that so many women have, and it's gotten better though, that they just have that fear that if they walk into the gym, they even look at a dumbbell, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And unfortunately, that is not the case, because like I told you before, I mean, I would spend everything that I've ever saved up just to train with you then. And did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time now. How do you like to respond to that?
Ooh, I like that question. I like when I'm approached with that because I've never been fearful of lifting weights. In fact, the only time I can ever remember being even just a little bit upset was when we were going to freaking counseling as a child before my mom passed. And they did this personality assessment on us. They put a bunch of different kids on this chart and told me, this is where you land. And it was a little boy, and he was like athletic. And I was like, the only thing I could think of is, oh, you think I look like a boy? Child psyche. I didn't get it. But as I got older, and then of course now maybe a result of my mom passing, I didn't have a feminine influence in my young years. And my dad is, hey, you're gonna learn how to change your spark plugs. Hey, you're gonna learn how to change your oil. Hey, come over here. I'm not having you not know how to change a tire. Get over here. So there was never a sense that I couldn't do something because I was a female. Now, he also never told me I couldn't do anything ever. He never necessarily said, hey, you can do everything. He just basically said, if you want it, you got to work for it. So go get it. So I love it when people ask me that question. They're like, aren't you afraid of getting too masculine? It's like, no, because that would be completely dependent on whether I cared what other people think. What I do for myself, what I look like now, and my goal of what I do for my body has nothing to do with anybody but me. And so it's easy for me to say, yeah, I don't care what you think. Because if you think I look like a man, that's cool. Most of the time, you're a man telling me this, and I don't look like you. So,
I always make the point. It's like whenever people say, I say, "Well, what kind of men are you hanging out with?" Then, if that really, I want to see the type of men that you're hanging out with. Then maybe I don't know. So yeah, that is just so great. But one thing that I mean, this whole working out. Oh yeah, one thing that this whole lifestyle I think impacts women so much more positively than men. It impacts men as well, though, is that confidence boost. I mean, we have heard hundreds of stories on this podcast of women who have just, it's really helped them with their self confidence and just everything with that. How have you personally taken, that confidence boost that you get from the gym and use it to impact your life in a positive way?
oh gosh, every day, everything I learn, I give bodybuilding like the crown for saving my life. Because when you're forced to do a diet that you don't want to do, when you're forced to get up and do cardio, when you don't want to get out of bed, you get this kind of battle with your inner child that I don't want to. And then if you sit there and look at yourself long enough and be like, you're an adult, you said you had a goal. So why is this now overcoming everything that you're doing? So every time I had to fight a battle with a meal or with a cardio session or with a workout session, it gave me strength to handle my life battles too. So I translate all of those things to my life. And I make it so much easier because I'm a personal trainer as well and life coach. It makes it so much easier for me to show my clients that it's effective because I live it day in and day out. I can take something that's very emotional for them and relate it to something physical where they see proof, and then they understand the concept and now start to believe that they can do it too. So it's everything. It's everything about the confidence that's brought with fitness has to do with my advancement. And I mean, oh my gosh, every woman should be lifting weights. Every woman should be challenging themselves.
Absolutely. And I mean, at what point in your journey did you just consider giving bodybuilding a try? Because so many people, they have all these misconceptions about the sport. And what was your introduction like into the sport? And did you have any misconceptions that you believed about it before you jumped into it? Or was it one of those things where you just want to just dive straight into it?
Absolutely. Because here's the other thing that bodybuilding taught me, that I was an insecure, very bitter young lady. Because I was the one who used to be like so tomboy that I'd be like, I lift, I don't do cardio, I just lift weights faster. Oh, I don't ever need to do a bodybuilding show. Why do you need to be in such little clothing on a stage in heels? That's so degrading. And once I looked in the mirror and saw that I didn't look like I wanted to look like. I wanted to look like that. And it didn't seem like the path that I was taking was getting me there. I decided, well, you can't judge something until you've walked in their shoes. So go give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And then you can validate all of the things that you said. But if you like it, then maybe you need to take the foot out of your mouth and start moving forward with something that's realistic instead of just basing all of your decisions and passions on insecurities. So that was it. And I just got curious one day, and there was one gentleman that I had, the first coach actually. Um, his girlfriend was a bikini competitor. And at that time, I was just like, okay, let me check it out. Now, mind you, the first time that I went to look and see what a bodybuilding show was years before. And the only people that I saw come up were the fitness competition. Okay, but and if anybody's ever seen a fitness show and what they do, I said, there's no way I can do that. I would break my back. Those girls are amazing. I don't know how they do it depleted. They're goddesses. So I asked him, I was like, interested in competing. Can you give her my information? I'd like to talk to her about what her experience was. Well, he was all for it. He's like, let's get you in a show. Boom. All of a sudden I was there. In retrospect, I probably needed a little more time before I decided to start a prep. But hey, hindsight's 2020. I'm here now, and I'm taking the right processes now. So
I mean, yeah, talking about those fitness freaks. Anytime I have one of those fitness comparators on, I always tell them like, can you somehow transfer your willpower onto me? Like how you're able to do all that stuff, that lean down. It's like doing backflips and like, I personally just, yeah, that willpower is just so awesome. But I love to talk genetics on this podcast because so many people, I mean, everyone's on Instagram and social media, hear this all the time. Oh my God, I want his arms, I want her abs, I want their back, and I just want to strangle them and be like, you do not realize, you cannot look just like that person. Everyone's built differently. And on top of that, whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind. They have to train to oblivion to get it to catch up. I mean, mine were my back was the one thing that took off for me. And I'm also 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just absolutely shot where, I mean, I could train legs into oblivion and nothing would change. I always make the joke I could inject pure muscle into my thighs and they wouldn't gain an ounce they wouldn't gain an ounce. Calves don't even get me started. That's the number one genetic thing. I don't care what anyone says. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started? Excuse me, when you were getting started?
the hardest or the fastest growing?
Both.
Okay. Hardest, which is really, it's so funny. You never know what your body is capable of until you just keep going. Because in the very beginning, I didn't even think I had the body to do that well. I always knew my genetics would hold me back because I technically have a wide waist. So that has always been my biggest challenge because um, my hips and my rib cage, the distance between them is very short. It's about 1 inch. So my hip to waist ratio is only about 1.5 inches. So I have to be very, very accurate on controlling my abs to get them to come in. And I need to make my sweep wide and my shoulders large so I can make an illusion to make that happen. So my waist always been a challenge for me. I thought it was my glutes. But if anybody knows my husband, Charles Curtis, he had me do endless kickbacks, like kickbacks every other day. And now it is unfortunately my largest and fastest growing body part. So I'm like, I got to kick it down because unfortunately it's going to take over my quads and hammies here soon. But something that I've always had that I've never had to worry about is my arms. So I've always had biceps, triceps. It's always been a thing.
That's the bro in her. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we basically communicate with our arms. So yeah, no, yeah, that's great too as well. And I love asking that question because yeah, everyone's answers totally differ. But I mean, like I told you before, that nutrition is like that. That's like 80% of this at least. And you know, so many people just do not understand that. And there's just so many things with nutrition that I could get into. But what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you started into this lifestyle?
So my husband, his ethnicity, he's half black, half Filipino, and Japanese. So his specific dietary needs is that he needs to stay low sodium. So for myself, I mean, before I paid attention to diet, popcorn with coconut oil and like 4 tablespoons of salt was my dinner. You know what I mean? So it was a transition to not use salt as much at all, actually. Um, but I really, really, really enjoyed the effects of what that did for us. Now we're actually transitioning to adding it back in, but it is a dosed quantity instead of a. I tell everybody it's a supplement, not a seasoning. So way we can keep it controlled in that way. But as far as the other dietary things, I'll be honest, the diets that we do are so balanced that I don't miss much. I have chicken, fish, beef, vegetables, rice, potatoes, oats, eggs, egg whites, and protein powder. I eat that every day, even now. So, and you get so used to it that by the time it comes for a cheat meal or comes for something that you're off plan, you don't want it because you know how it makes you feel afterwards. And you're just like, I don't even care how it makes me look. I don't want to feel that way.
Well, it did explain. I was going to ask, your husband being part Japanese, did he design the room that you're in? Because that's a Japanese room, really. That we see. I was just about to say that too, but that's awesome. Like I've always wanted to go to Japan and visit there, and that is great. And yeah, being that that's just and how what is it like also being in a relationship with a bodybuilder? Because the guests that I've had on, it's like a third of them are in a bodybuilding relationship with someone else. It's not. I'd say it's not really the regular thing, but what is that like? Especially being that you guys might be on preps at the same time, or just dealing with that because just dealing with one person who's into bodybuilding, that seems like it's hard enough as it is at times. But when both of them are in it, that can really seems to really be like a thing that really either builds strength for a relationship or just something that really, might take it down a little bit.
Honestly, I feel like it depends on who you are and who you're with is what it matters. Um, you have to remember our relationship started with bodybuilding. Given the fact that his drive and passion to do well is similar to my drive and passion to do well in anything that I do, we are so alike that we just, I moved in with him after like 3 months. And by then we were doing cardio every morning together. We were cooking meals together. I remember in the first couple of weeks, he asked me what my diet was so he could go out and buy all the food that I needed and keep it at his house so I could have my meal prep while I was there and I wouldn't get off track. It's the respect and understanding for the fact that the goal is personal and that we don't get in each other's way when it comes to that. I'll tell you another fun fact. I have never done a prep where he has not also simultaneously been prepping. So we also push each other. We're training together every day. He knows my weights, I know his weights, and I don't lift light. But that's because I have him there. You know what I mean? And that helps me advance, and I help him advance. I get better at what I do, and then he, gets better at what he does. So for us, it's like I said, it's who you are. That's who we are, and what kind of situation you're in. Another thing too is we run our business together. This office that I'm in right now is our meal prep and training company. We're both trainers and we have a unified vision for where our business is going. So we're on the same page every day. That's not a luxury every competitor couple can actually enjoy because a lot of times whatever workplace they have that draws time and attention away takes away from the work that you need to have to be able to be successful while you do this.
Absolutely. Do you guys basically have to have babysitters though by the time you guys get close to the end of your preps? Because I mean, with that prep brain, I mean, good God, you need to have people watching over you. Otherwise, you are going to make a fool of yourself sometimes.
No, I have left my phone it's a restaurant depot. I've left it on the cart every prep and had to drive on the freeway, back on the freeway, go back and either get it from the front desk or the cart which was left on. But as far as the other stuff, no, we work under high pressure well. As a matter of fact, the show that I just did recently where I won, um, show was on a Saturday. We own the meal prep company. We're also good friends with the guy who was putting the thing on, so Dennis James. So he offered us a booth and he said, "Hey, come sell meal prep." Cool. Except for I'm the chef. Okay. There's only one of me and maybe one or two other people that I can recruit to help, and then one or two or three maybe people that I can get to help on a special occasion. So on Thursday before my show, we made 350 meals, vegetarian, vegan, all the things, got it all packed up, ready to go, and sold them all on Saturday. So I just don't accept the excuses, the normal excuses. I don't accept them as something that's like, oh, this is normal. I can say this now or I can do this now. It's like, no, how much can you do if you just buckle down and push through? And it was great because by the time Saturday came around, I was so relaxed that everything was in place. I was able to work and win.
Absolutely, and I mean, the number one thing that surprised me the most with the bodybuilding lifestyle, I would have never guessed it in a million years before I started this podcast, is that for so many of these athletes, posing is the hardest thing for them. It's harder than you're working out. It's harder than your nutrition. I would have never guessed it in a million years. What has your relationship been like with posing?
It is everything. It is everything. Why? Because my waist is very wide. So I need to use illusion to be able to get those parts of my body to look correct, in that X frame shape on stage. And I'm a huge, huge advocate for flexibility and range of motion because I feel as if the bone and joint and tendon can move in their full range of motion, you can create any image you want. You just have to put it in the right place, right? Because your body is a 3D thing, but a pose is taken as a 2D scan, like a photo or an image scan. So put things closer to the camera that you want bigger, put things away from the camera that you want smaller, and then learn how those muscles move. So every single day, every single set between pose or between sets, I'm posing. I'm stretching. If I pose and I feel a tightness somewhere, I stop and I address the tightness before I hit the next set. It's everything. That also has to do with my husband, though, because he's probably known as one of the better posers in his division.
No, and I mean, yeah, with that posing, it's just people do not understand that your body is not meant to be in that flex of a state for that long a period of time. And how long do you think that it took for you to sort of develop that muscle maturity? Because yeah, if you were to take someone from the general public and have them go pose on stage, they're going to last maybe a minute at most. But you guys are up there for sometimes, 5, 10 minutes up there posing. How long did it take you before you think you really developed that ability, to be able to sustain those poses for as long as you might need?
Year and a half to 2 years, probably. Yeah. The first show, I didn't have to hold it long because it was just one me and another girl. And she won. So, um, but by the second show, I knew what it had felt like to not be secure in how I was moving. So I was like, that's not happening again. I'm going to do it better, and I did. And I honestly think the biggest part of posing that's important is for you to practice as much as you can. So when you get on stage, you don't have to think about it
Absolutely. And all the poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
anymore. Oh man, I try to make every pose my favorite pose, but my back double is my favorite because it's the one I have to work on the least. My waist is naturally hidden in that way, so I don't have to do much. Um, Least favorite pose. Right now, my biggest challenge is my side tricep and my ab thigh because of my waist. So I'm trying to figure out what parts to bring and close. I think I've got the side tricep almost completely down because what it looked like at the last show was happy. But as for the ab thigh, one of the things that I've done because I've tried to keep my waist small is not train my abs as much. But unfortunately, when you're dry and depleted, if the ab muscle is flat and that doesn't have enough density, you don't get that push and then you get a flat skin look on stage. So I need to start working my abs, which means I need to start unlocking the midsection part that I've been so afraid of for so long. I need to just dig in there and figure out, okay, what's there, what moves, what can I make bigger? Let's figure it out.
I mean, the ab pose is the number one by far that we hear of, just because it's not a natural looking pose. You can't really make it look fluid and natural in your posing, or it's hard to do just because, yeah, you're just not meant to be in a state like that. But when you go to these shows, and I mean, what is that feeling like when you get to walk up on that stage and all that months upon months of hard work that you put into this is finally being rewarded and you get to show it off for people? What is that feeling like for you?
You know, um, Nothing like I thought it would feel. The very first time that I went up there, everybody talks about you get this stage high and you just love being on stage. I was like a deer in headlights. I couldn't see anybody. I couldn't see the judges. I didn't know if I was smiling or looked awkward. Everything felt tight. I was terrified. But the relief of afterwards made me feel amazing because I was like, it's done, it's over. I technically been prepping for almost a year. But that changed when I did my second show because I was so unhappy with my results for my first. I was like, we're not doing that again. So the second show, I won overall for figure physique and both divisions that I was in. That was in 2019. That was incredible. I had my whole team with me. We had prepped 6 athletes for that show, and my husband competed the very next week. Um, it's incredible. What I enjoyed the most about the last show when I won and that feeling was that you just get so much interaction from people that normally would never say anything to you. They'd be too terrified to say something or too shy or whatever. But just random people come up and just try to give you light and support and just tell you how much they appreciate your performance. Like to me, that's amazing because I'm not a center of attention kind of person. I know it doesn't look like it because I have the yellow hair and all that. I don't like being the center of attention. So when I get it every now and then, and it's for something I feel like I deserve, then that's rewarding for me.
Absolutely. And that's just, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine personally what that feeling would be like because I was always into team sports. But yeah, just that moment's got to be just so special. But one of the things that I also have to talk about because it's not talked about as much as it should be is the post show blues. Because so many people do not understand that that look that you present on stage is not going to be sustainable. You're not going to be able to look like that 24/7. Unfortunately, I mean, there are some genetic freaks that are able to keep that look for maybe a couple more weeks longer than other people, or they have like a somewhat shredded look all year round, but they're not. I mean, it's not healthy for you, but what was that like when you first realized that like, hey, all this weight that I've lost, all this great look that I've had, I am gonna have to put on some weight afterwards because it's just not sustainable. And has that gotten easier for you to accept as your career has gone on?
Yes, but it was not easy in the beginning because you have the post-show blues is controlled by a couple of different things. A, did you have a plan? If you didn't have you had a plan for 16 weeks and you're not going to plan what's happening to your body the very next day after that, you plan. Figure out what your plan is. Second of all, what are you going to stick to on that plan? You know what I mean? Because I gained probably 30 pounds in the first 3 to 4 days because I just ate everything on my first show. The second show, I did eat a lot of stuff, but I had a photo shoot the next day, right? So I couldn't go crazy. But then afterwards, I just didn't want to get like that again. The edema that occurs when you carb load and you add extra salts and sugars that your body wasn't used to, the edema from that is painful. It's very uncomfortable. So yeah, it got a lot easier because both times in off season, when I stepped off stage, my husband's like, "Okay, goal's 180." I said, "You're crazy. I've never been 180 in my life. At my heaviest, I was 152. You've got to be crazy." Well, January 2020, which was 6 weeks after nationals, guess who was 180? Dealt with it. It didn't look as bad as I thought it would, but it was challenging. I'm about 144 right now, so it's about 40 pounds ago.
I mean, yeah, and it's just like starting your own business where you got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. Unfortunately, those two do go hand in hand. But I mean, let's be totally honest. You're not the average looking woman. I mean, if you were to walk out in public dressed the way you are right now, I like to compare it to being like a mini celebrity if you're a bodybuilder, where people are just naturally just drawn to you. Those be like, oh wow, that's interesting. I haven't seen that really before. What has that been like for you? Has it been something that you've struggled with, or has it been something that you've just always just been fine with knowing that you're going to get some extra attention, or what has that whole journey been like for you?
Well, remember, I don't like being the center of
That's
attention, so
true. That's true.
strange to adjust to in the beginning. My husband, though, is tatted head to toe. Like he's got tats on his head. He's got a dermal, nose piercing, three piercings here. He's sleeved up. He's giant. He's a 212 competitor. So for the most part, when I'm out and about, he gets most of the attention, and I'm just kind of the side piece. So that's okay for me. But I do remember the very first time that somebody stopped dead in the aisle. I'm just sitting there looking for whatever, peanut butter or something. And he's like, "Huh, you're a bodybuilder." And I looked at him, I'm like, "You think I'm a bodybuilder? That's so cool." He's like, "Yeah, I can tell you look fit." And like just to get that recognition and label from others was just, oh my gosh, I'm doing something that's really making a difference in how I look. Now I expect it. It's something that for me, it's business opportunity now, right? Because everybody who comes up and asks me about my body, I can talk to them about what I do and potentially help them at the very least get some clean, healthy lifestyle um, changes happening in their life. So yeah, for now it's just I
Now you're
expect
like,
it.
why aren't they noticing me? Like if you're in the grocery store and like no one comes up to you, basically. But no, yeah, and that's the funny thing that I found about this when I was in a lot better shape in college too. Yeah, I dealt with that as well. But two of the questions that I mean are not talked about as much as they should be, like a lot of things that should be, is let's be honest. Sleep is probably the most important thing when it comes to this lifestyle. I don't care what anyone says, and for anyone that disagrees with me, I tell them go pull an all nighter and then tell me how that works. Going to the gym the next day. What is your relationship like with sleep? Because I mean, we have some of those freaks on the podcast that can get like 3 hours a night off and they're totally fine. And I mean, especially when it gets to prep season, sleep becomes so much more valuable. And what is this whole sleep thing been like for you? Because especially being when you're in that hot of a climate too. I mean, I can imagine even with AC, it might be hard to go sleep at night.
That's interesting that you should say that because I feel like each prep there's a challenge that I need to overcome. I need to get better at something, right? The first prep was diet, getting it exactly right. The second prep was make sure it was stayed perfect. But now I'm like, okay, I've got all those things in place. What can I fix? And it is my sleep is what I need to get more of. The challenging part of that is I'm a business owner, right? I work 7 days a week full time. So my clients start at 5:30 in the morning, but sometimes my last meal doesn't get eaten until 10. So there's a very small window there where I actually get some sleep. I have tried to sleep earlier, but I wake up like clockwork, 4 or 5 a.m. I get about 4.5 to 5 hours on a regular. That's pretty good. If I get 6, then that's a sleep in day. I was able to get some good sleep. So I'm thankful that my body is able to produce the results that it has with what I know is something that is lacking in my schedule, and I'm just kind of working more and more each day to get it down. But yeah, I recognize that sleep is probably my kryptonite right now.
Oh, I know if I get a super hard workout in, like if I get a workout in and I do like all the heavy cardio, I know that I got to be out for at least 8 to 9 hours if I'm gonna even want to even get up in the morning. So, yeah, unfortunately, and some people, yeah, like you said, they can function off of that, and that, yeah, that
Yeah, people are different, I think. I think that might be something that's genetic as well because, I mean, I was looking back at the rest of my life from before. I've always functioned on 5 or 6 hours of sleep because I've always had to get up early since I was really little. So I don't know if maybe something in my system over time has adjusted to be able to compensate for that. Um, I don't know if that's a possibility, but in everything that I'm learning in other areas, it seems like it could be. So I think there are certain, because there's some people that like if they're sleeping in, it's like you're not waking them up before a certain time. Good luck, they're dead to the world. Then you have others that are just like, oh, I can't sleep for too long because then I get too sleepy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, yeah, that's just definitely something that people deal with. And yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And one thing that with cardio, that's the bane of my existence. I hate it more than life itself. And I mean, when I say cardio, I mean like actual running. I mean, I can walk for as long as possible, but when it comes to cardio, what has your relationship been like? Because unfortunately, when you become a bodybuilder, you do sort of have to sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio.
You do. I honestly did not look at cardio the way it was supposed to be looked at when I said I hated it as much as I did. Um, I always thought cardio was like, I can't breathe. Grew up in Bakersfield. The air quality is really bad there. And so every time I'd run outdoors, I'd get sharp pains in my chest and my lungs would just like seize up. The air's bad. But cardio doesn't mean you have to be outside. Cardio can be on a treadmill. And the other part of it is the specific type of cardio that we do as bodybuilders is mostly steady state cardio, which is a cardio that you're able to do and still have a conversation while you're doing it. It's a very specific process that happens because if you think about the last time you sprinted anywhere, you remember that your skin wasn't sweating, right? It's because a different energy system. Your body uses a different energy system to do that, and that relies on carbohydrates that have been most recently eaten. Now, if you're in steady state, you're sweating and you're continually sweating. The process that your body is creating to sweat, that mobilizes fat. So for me, it really wasn't that bad because he just told me, he's like, yeah, 2.0 speed, 15 incline. I was like, "What? That's it? I just gotta walk?" He's like, "Yeah, for 30 minutes." And then it was 45 and then it was 50. But after a while, I'll tell you what, whatever genetics you have for your calves, you'll find out after 3 months of incline cardio. That's how you.
Yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. Even thinking about that is making me shake and sweat a little bit. But being that you are, I mean, a personal trainer, I love to ask this because, I mean, as we're getting to the end of COVID now and people are starting, get out again and, go to the gyms again, what advice do you have for people that are looking to just get started, getting back in shape again? Because let's be honest, I mean, I even put on my 10 pounds of COVID weight that I'm still working off right now. But what advice do you have for people just to get started? Because I find for so many people, once they take that first step into the gym, it's so hard to walk out without getting a workout in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Honestly, it's just like start creating habits that are going to put yourself there. I mean, if you're having a hard time getting to the gym, make it so how many times realistically can I get to the gym a week? All right, let's say 3 times a week. Cool. So your minimum operating level for going to the gym is not 3, is 2. But wait, I can get in 3. That's fine. But you're going to say 3, and you're going to short yourself 1. This way, you're going to complete it every single time. And then when you can get in 3, it's bonus. So now it comes a reward. So glass half empty, glass half full. But if you're really just looking to start feeling better so you can have the energy to do it, you got to start on your plate and you got to start on your water intake. Just increasing water intake to the appropriate amount that you need for your body, which for most people is at least a gallon a day, especially in hot climates. You're going to lose probably 5 to 7 pounds immediately. And I'll tell you, cardio is a whole lot easier when you're lighter.
Yeah, I mean, with that water thing, that was my thing as well. And I mean, I've went on long walks before where I literally take like eight of those bottled water things with me, and I have them done by the time I yeah, that's water is ridiculous, and just going on walks too. Like you said, I mean, that is unfortunately, as much as I hate it, it is good for you. It's good for your heart and stuff like that. And just go for a walk. And if someone were to walk up to you and say, Elizabeth, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it. What would be one thing that you would like to see changed?
Hmm, one thing change. Gosh, I don't know. I love so much about this sport. I think it would be I want a regulation system for the coaches. So I think that there needs to be some type of certification, and I know there's a few that do exist now from some like old school bodybuilders, but there needs to be some kind of like foundational information that you're given that's a one-stop shop. If you want to compete, hey, you might want to get through this first. Or if you're going to, especially if you're going to be coaching somebody, you need to get through these things first because people are ruining people's bodies. I can't tell you how many people I have come in on things that they shouldn't be on, ridiculous amounts of cardio that's, messing up their metabolism. Females and males are different. Okay, guys, you guys have a luxury of a static metabolism that never changes. A female's metabolism changes at least 3 to 4 times a month. So you have to take for the account for those things. And it's just sad because in the journey to try to get a girl lean, you end up facing a lot of what is actually our health problems right now, and that's the hormone crisis.
I mean, yeah, don't even get me started on that. I didn't even know that. First of all, I didn't even think that guys had hormones when I first started this podcast. When everyone was like, "Oh, you should go get your hormones checked," I was like, "Why? Like, what am I doing?" So, that's just a whole thing. That's a can of worms. I had a hormone specialist on, and she just really just blew my mind with all that stuff. Where yeah, especially with women, this is a tricky sport, so you got to be really careful about that. But if we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding journey? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
We're on a train for fast tracking right now. This has been the most momentum that I've ever had in my life. Where Well, the pro card attempt is in 5.5 weeks, or 5 weeks actually, because that'll be 5 weeks tomorrow. So the goal then is to win that pro card there. The very next week, we're headed to Tampa for my husband's show. And then he's going to fly to Texas the week after and do that. So I'd like to, that is a part of my goal is supporting him through those two shows. So potentially going to the Olympia this year. For my personal bodybuilding goals, it's always the same after a show, regardless of whether I win that pro card or not. If I don't, it means I need to grow. If I do, that means I need to grow because these girls are jacked and I need to catch up. So that'll be my plan a year from now. I would like to see my physique in its fullest form possible at that time. Business wise, I'd love to become a little bit more financially independent at this place so where I can start utilizing it my extra time when that starts happening. Um, for some of my like business things that I want to do. I want to start a keynote speaking business. I want to kind of launch a humanitarian side of our company as well, where we start to give back to the community. But I'll look one step at a time, right? I got to get traction first, and then I got to get some people in place to cover things while I've got the plate spinning. And then once I can walk away from the kitchen, then I'll leave them here.
Apps. And is there any way that people can get a hold of you other than your Instagram if they want to get in touch about training or anything like that?
Absolutely. It is teamcx2.com, teamcx2.com. You can see our bios on there. My husband and I, there's links to our Instagram, both our business Instagram as well as our personal ones. We are very active on those. And then there's a contact page there. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, fill out that form, you go straight to my email and we'll start chatting.
Awesome. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Well, I don't know if you didn't know who he was already, my husband. I wouldn't be where I'm at without him. He's an amazing person. Um, Extra shout outs just go to all the people that supported me throughout this journey. My suit sponsor, Crystal Gypsy, she's in Hawaii. If you visit my Instagram, I've got a discount code for there. But I mean, she does an amazing job for suits and bathing suits too. So you don't need to be a competitor to utilize what she does. And then I would probably get in trouble if I didn't mention Gaspari because they're also my supplement sponsor right now.
That is awesome. And I'll leave a link to all that stuff down below. And again, you guys, everyone go and give Elizabeth a follow. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. And buyer beware. I mean, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies and get in shape. But again, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. And good luck in 5 weeks. I mean, this podcast will be up in like 2 weeks or so. So you'll still be in your prep there. So everyone, make sure to go and wish her good luck. And I think you're going to do great. And again, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a good time.
All right. So this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.